In this lesson, we're going to make some final modifications to our airship. Alright, so let's come in and let's make some modifications to the wings. If you hit L on the keyboard and go to your left view, you can see the wings and they're just a little flat. And I want them to be kind of at an angle. And what I want to do is I want to just kind of get an idea of how I want these to be angled. And so I'm just going to grab this and rotate it down. And probably go down about 15 degrees or so on each side. Now I can tell that that's 15 degrees. If you hit Control Z and you let that snap, it will snap every 5 degrees. So I just counted how many times it snapped, and it was 3. Okay, so if that helps you with your snapping, go ahead and use that little trick there. Alright, so looking at this, I'm going to take both of these wings and I want to move them down in the Z direction a little bit. And you'll notice how the wings kind of cut through the vents here. And we need to make those modifications to that to get the exact design that I'm looking for. So I know that my vents, my air intakes here, are instances of one another. So I know that I can just change one and it will change the other. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and open this group so I can work with the individual objects themselves. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to change the shape of this air intake to kind of accommodate the slant of the wing. So let's go to Editable Poly, and I want to just take this corner down right here. Now taking this corner down could be a little bit of a trick simply because I've got a lot of vertices because of this smoothing that we've done with this. And I'm just going to make sure that my Turbo Smooth is not showing on the end result. And I'm going to take this down and then just recut that after I apply that Turbo Smooth. So I'm going to remove some of these edges. So I'm going to double click on these. I'm just going to hit Control and Backspace to remove the edges and the vertices. And I'm going to hit Control Backspace on this one as well. Let's also get rid of this loop. Control Backspace. And then also the one on the inside here, so Control Backspace. This is very easy to cut, and sometimes you may have to just make decisions like this. So let's go into Vertex mode, and I'm going to select these vertices right here along this corner. I don't need this one back here. I can leave that one just the way it is. And I do have one more loop right here that I want to get rid of. Sorry about that, I saw that at the last second. So I want to move these straight down. But you'll see that if I'm in my local direction, it's not giving me the direction that I need. So I can switch that right back to View and then constrain these vertices to the edge to move. So if I drag that straight down in the Z, you'll see that that gives me plenty of room to move that down. Alright, good. So now what I need to do is I need to get this distance right here back. You can see that it kind of tapers off, and I just want to drag these vertices straight down as well. Okay, now you might be wondering, well, why didn't we just take all of the vertices in there and just drag all of them down at the same time with all the cuts, so that way we don't have to cut this up again? Well, when you start dealing with multiple vertices and multiple directions and things like that, even the constrain capabilities will not work properly in some directions. So I just find it easier to recut it if that's feasible. So you'll notice that the other side has done the same thing, and you'll also notice that I need to get rid of one of these objects. You can see that this top piece here, I need to get rid of that. So I'm going to delete that. Let's go back to our object. I'm going to turn off that Turbo Smooth for right now, just to look at this really quickly. Now you'll notice that we deleted this slat on the other side, but it didn't get rid of it on this side. And that's because it's not an instance in that case. So we'll have to remove that on our own. Okay, in just a moment. Let's go ahead and apply our Turbo Smooth and show end result in Editable Poly, and let's recut that. So we'll go to Edge Mode, Edit, Swift Loop. Now this blue is carrying over from the many lessons ago when we first created this object. So those options will stay the same. Okay, so we're going to cut there, and then remember we want to cut across a curve to get that volume back. And then we'll create a curve on the, or a cut right on the inside and outside here. Okay, that looks good. We're going to come right on here on the inside. And just trying to tighten that up a little bit more. And we're going to go right across the top here. And there. So that should give us all the shape that we need there. Okay, so now that is carried over onto this side. Let's select our object. We'll go to Group and Close. Let's go to this group. We'll open it and then select that one slat that's in there and delete that out. So now we can come in and we can select that group, close. Okay, so now we've got those vents ready for our wings, and everything else looks pretty good. Now if you want to change the shape back here a little bit, you can. Just do the kind of the same technique that we did before. You know, we can come in and we could grab just this edge right in here, and we can move that up by constraining the movement to the edge. However, you'll need to get rid of a lot of this geometry to make that easier to move, because that could cause some issues. Now I like the design that I have here, so I'm going to go ahead and keep it. The next thing and the last thing that we need to do to the ship, to the modeling portion here, is we need to create the vent that is going to be needed to thrust the ship forward. So let's go to polygon mode by hitting 4 on the keyboard, and we'll select these polygons right in here. And I'm going to reshape this a little bit. First thing that I want to do is I want to go to vertex mode and grab just these two vertices and scale them in the Y toward one another. And I'm going to grab these as well. So I should have just these two selected, and then also these two. So I should have 4 vertices. And you'll see that by using that marquee selection, that's causing a problem. So I'm going to hold down Alt and just do a marquee selection around that, and that should get rid of those. Okay, let's go ahead and scale that in there. Looks good. Let's select these right here, these 6. Holding down Control, scale those in a little bit. Let's grab these vertices, and I'm going to extrude inward, but I'm going to extrude it in the view or in the world direction, not out at an angle like this. So I'm going to leave that extrusion at 0 and then move it straight back. Okay, so get something kind of like that. Alright, so now that we've done that, let's go ahead and show end result. You'll see that that rounds out, so we need to add some hardness to that. Go to Edge Mode, Edit, Swift Loop, and let's go ahead and create some loops around this. So one on each side. We'll go across the top of that and the bottom, but most of it's going to come from the inside here. So let's turn off Turbo Smooth, and let's try to get a loop on the inside toward the front, and then also one toward the back here. There we go. And remember, if you have some trouble with that, just turn off that Turbo Smooth. You may have to move the camera around to get that to recognize what edge you want to cut on. Let's go turn on that Turbo Smooth, and it's still not giving us that sharpness we need, and that's because we haven't cut on the inside of that. So cut on just this side of the line, and that should harden that up. Now that is going to add some geometry down the front, but it shouldn't mess with anything. Okay, it should all work together. Alright, so now we've created the vent that we'll see our thrust come out of, so that will give us a chance to create some dynamics coming out of that whenever this VTOL is moving. Final thing to do is move our vents back into place, our fans back into place here. So let's move those down at the same time. And then I'm going to rotate this one by itself and 15 degrees. Do the same thing to this one. Rotate it 15 degrees. And then move it as you need to. Okay, so let's make sure that that's in the local direction. And if I need to center that up on the wing a little bit better, move that around. Okay, do the same thing over here. Okay, so just get that set up properly. Alright, so we have finished the modeling portion of the ship, and now what we need to do is we need to create a landing pad that is going to be used in our animation shop before we get ready for the animation section. So in the next lesson we're going to show you how to import an object like that and to start assigning materials and things like that to our ship, and start assigning materials to our aircraft and getting the scene all ready with materials and textures and things like that before we can even move on into any of the more advanced sections like animation and dynamics. Alright, so we'll see you then.